So week before last, we finished chapter 8, and that chapter concluded that, by performing devotional service, then we don't have to worry about when we leave this body or so many technicalities which we need to take into consideration if we perform, the other processes. So we started chapter 9 by explaining what that process is of devotional service. And first point we made is that it's only explained to those who are not envious of Krishna. Idam te tu gayutvam pravaksham anasuyave. Anasuya is without envy. Yanam vigyanamasika brahma. So then, we're actually qualified to understand this science. And it's understood in 3 levels. We talked about, confidential knowledge, which we've already studied in chapters 2 to 6 of the Bhagavadgita. That's knowledge about our not being the body and soul. This is called Guya. Guya means secret. And then in chapters 7 to 8, beginning of this middle section of Bhagavad Gita, we talked about more confidential knowledge about the super soul. This is Guyatara. And then now we're into chapter 9. So now we're talking about the most confidential knowledge, and that Guyatama. So that's the knowledge of our relationship with Krishna, with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we talked about similarities between chapter 7 and this, but chapter 9, although it's similar to chapter 7, knowledge about the Supreme, that's the title of chapter 7. So this is revealing more knowledge, more intimate knowledge. So we got up to text 15, I think it was. Is that right?
Yeah, 15 was last time. Yeah.
Okay. So just let me catch up to, let me find that. In between time, we can say that, we talked about, understanding Krishna from confident, we understood, that this knowledge is Raja Vidyam, Raja Guyam, Pavisamidam, Uttaman, that takes 2. It's the most confidential knowledge. It's the secret of all secrets. It's everlastingly performed. It's joyfully performed. And it was giving you all the qualities of this Raja Vidyam. Is the king of all knowledge. Pavitram, we can directly perceive it. And that's Prakshadamam. Then Dharmyam, it's the chief of all religious processes. And lastly, Avyayam. Anybody know what Avyayam means? Avyayam means it's eternal. It never ceases. But once we obtain this, we never lose it. And so, chapter then text 3 talks about if you're not faithful on this process, we have to be faithful to the process, otherwise we stay in the material world. And then from chapter, from 4 onwards to, I think it's about 10, it talked about the Aishwarya, the opulence in greater detail of the Supreme Lord. Yeah. And so this is repeated again in text 10, of all this, of the fish I am the short, of bodies of water I am the ocean. So, and it's the same in Srimad Bhagavatam, that we really have to understand who Krishna is, because we tend to, it's just automatic that we'll just relate to whatever we read in relation to what we've experienced. And therefore we won't really understand Krishna when we hear about his pastimes and so many other things which come. So this is really drilled in that, you know, what Krishna is, what his actual situation is, so that, you know, when somebody's really great, we actually start to, you know, take it seriously and surrender. May take time. And then from 11, we talked about, you know, that fools deride Krishna when he descends into this world because they don't understand his actual real situation. That, you know, he's unborn, he's infallible. When he appears here, it's not that he's appearing like a human being, it's completely different. And then, what he was 12, that it talks about the different classes of people who don't get the results unless they add some bhakti to their activity. You know, if we're looking for liberation, if we're looking for fruitive activities, then, you know, they're all a failure unless we put Krishna in the equation. And therefore, one who's intelligent, Mahatma Master Vampatha. This is a great soul. It's not Mahatma Gandhi or Mahatma this or Mahatma G. It's Mahatma Bhakta. A Bhakta is a Mahatma, great soul. It says that they just fully engage themselves in devotional service. Why? Because they've understood Krishna's position. And then 14, therefore, they're constantly chanting my glories, Satatam Kirti Antonam. So that was the end of that section from 11 to 14. Then in 15, it talks about four people. Let me get this right. 3 people. Earlier in the Bhagavadgita, in the 7th chapter, it talks about 4 kinds of people who don't surrender and 4 kinds of people who do surrender. And the 4 kinds of people who do surrender are called the person who's wanting some wealth, a person who's in distress, a person who's inquisitive, and a person who has knowledge of Krishna. And he has knowledge about, you know, transcendental knowledge to some degree, and therefore he surrenders with knowledge. And therefore Krishna said, you know, in that particular chapter 7, he said that the jnani is better. He's the best. Because he has knowledge and he's surrendering with knowledge, he can actually develop a relationship properly. Unless we know somebody, we can't really develop a relationship. And then, so then at 15, it tells you about 3 other people who surrender to some degree, not quite as much as those 4 who are surrendering directly, but those who surrender in an indirect way. We can go through actually 15 again and read the verse. I'm just trying to get back to 15. I'm on this Kindle, you see, and it's not as quick as turning pages over. Okay, who wants to we'll stick to the usual sequence, left to right, top row, left to right. That puts Jai Krishna first.
So what am I reading, Maharaj?
We'll read 15 again.
15, okay. Yagya yagena chapyeni yajanto mam upashati ekatvena pritakvena bahuda vishvato mukam. Others who engage in sacrifice by the cultivation of knowledge worship the Supreme Lord as one without a second, as diverse in many and in the universal form.
Yeah, so I'll just repeat what I said last week. Can anybody remember who's who out of those 3? He talked about the impersonalist who believes himself to be the supreme. That's Eka 1, Ekat Vena. Yeah.
There's the
And then,
demigod worshippers as well, wasn't there? You mentioned.
yeah, that was in the second one. That's Bahu, one who worships many. Pritak Vena Bahu. And Vishvato Mukham, the last one. They worship the universal form of the Lord. They think that, the Lord is this material manifestation. But because they're actually identifying with a supreme consciousness or something superior to themselves, they're actually, in a good situation. So they somehow or other they're indirectly worshiping Krishna at least, either through being one with him through the demigods or through his universal form. So later we'll hear about what that universal form is. Now, from 16, he starts to explain these different categories in a little bit more detail. So 16, carry on. You can read 16.
Aham krato aham yagyaha svadaham aham aushadham mantroham aham avyagyam aham agnir aham hutam. But it is I who am the ritual. I am the sacrifice, the offering to the ancestors, the healing herb, the transcendental chant. I am the butter and the fire and the offering.
So now he's explained, these different things. Krishna's saying that, I empower these things. That is my actual energy, which is making all these things potent. And that's 17 to 19. That'll start explaining that, how Krishna is the shelter of everybody. Also, he's pervading everywhere, and he's the shelter of everybody. It says that I am the. Anyway, if you read the verse, I think that'll be better.
Shall I do the next one, 17? Pitaham asya jagato mahadatta pitama aha vedyam pavitram omkara riksama yajo evacha. I am the father of this universe, the mother, the support, and the grandsire. I am the object of knowledge, the purifier, and the syllable Om. I am also the Rig, the Sama, and the Yajurvedas.
Well, that says everything, isn't it? Everything's in the Vedas, and Krishna says, I'm that. Does anybody know from another verse from the Bhagavad Gita which says that Krishna is the source of the Vedas? He is the Vedas. Anybody remember? Very famous one.
Vedaham samatitani, I forgot.
Sarvasya Chaham, Ridi.
Sarvasya Chaham Hridisane Vishtoma Tak Smritir Jnanam Apohanam Cha Vedasya Sarva Aham Eva Vedyo Vedanta Krid Veda Videva Chaham. Yeah,
Yes,
I'm the source. Yeah.
Krishna is saying that I'm the source of the Vedas, and I'm the knower of the Vedas. Sarvasya Matak Smriti Jnanam. That is a source of remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So, if we want to understand Krishna, how is the source of the Vedas, the goal of the Vedas as well, then Krishna will give us the intelligence, Matak Smriti, Jnana, Upahanam, Shada. We're covered with forgetfulness, so that's Krishna's energy. And so that's why we say, everything we do, we shouldn't think it's, something that we are doing for Krishna. It's a chance for us to show our sincerity so that Krishna can actually empower us to do it. That's the real understanding. As soon as we think we're, we can do something, the tendency is that we forget Krishna. Have that experience every day. Okay, carry on with these opulences. So we'll change readers now. Who's next? It's me. No. It's driving Maya Parishwari. Anthony. Is anybody there?
Yeah. Where are we up to, Maharaj?
I think it's 17. Oh, we did 17. We're on to 18.
18. Is it I am the goal?
If it's 18, that's what it is, yeah.
Right. So Gate Bharta Prabhu Sakshi Vivasha Sharanam Surit Prabhava Pralaya Shtanam Nidanam Vijam Avyayam. I am the goal, the sustainer, the master, the witness, the abode, the refuge, and the most dear friend. I am the creation and the annihilation, the basis of everything, the resting place, and the eternal seed.
Yeah. So, in other words, it's just making the same point. It's like cutting off all the alternatives. We just, whatever we think about, that's Krishna. That's the whole point. Carry on. So, next one.
Text 19. Tapamya aham vasam nigrinami otrijamicha amritam chaiva mrityuscha satasat chaham Arjuna. O Arjuna, I give heat and I withhold and send forth the rain. I am immortality and I am also death personified. Both spirit and matter are in me.
So, both spirit and matter are in me. What more do we need to do? But Krishna, he carries on just to make sure that it's just like, we've got no way out. Like Hiranyakashipu, he tried to find a way around, surrendering to Krishna by saying, I won't be killed in so many different situations. And he covered them all according to material calculations, but, he doesn't realize that, Krishna is actually, beyond our ability to, protect ourselves. He still actually killed Hiranyakashipu by another means. So that ends that particular section. And the next section, we go to the second of these three people who get surrendering directly to Krishna. And this is in verse 20 to 25. And these are Pratikshapana. These are the demigod worshippers. Okay. So we'll change readers. Let's have a look. Next, it's Mayapur Chandradaya.
Okay. Traividya mam somapah puta papa yagyar ishtva svargatim prartayante te punyam asadya surendra lokam ashnanti divyan divideva bhogan. Those who study the Vedas and drink the Soma juice, seeking the heavenly planets, worship me indirectly. And purified of sinful reactions, they take birth on the pious heavenly planet Indra, where they enjoy godly delights.
Okay. So everybody's been, put in their category. This is even what they're trying to understand or trying to obtain. That's still Krishna, that's the point. I mean, it tells you more about the demigod worship. Carry on.
Okay, next verse is Tetam bhuktva svargalokam vishalam kshine punye martyalokam vishanti evam trayi dharmam anuprapanna gata gatam kama kama labante. When they have thus enjoyed vast heavenly sense pleasure and the results of their pious activities are exhausted, they return to this mortal planet again. Thus those who seek sense enjoyment by adhering to the principles of three Vedas achieve only repeated birth and death.
So this is the result of demigod worship. They get some temporary result. So this is important to understand. Material energy is so powerful that it's always, we're attracted very much by it. And therefore, even though we know about devotional service, somehow or other, due to habit, we think that, happiness is going to come through the material energy. Okay. So you can read another one. Next one.
Ananyas chintayanto mam ye janak parupasate tesham nityabhinuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. But those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they like and I preserve what they have.
Yeah. So this is a pure devotional service, exclusive devotion. And Krishna Vahamya, there's maybe you all know the story about the Brahman. He read this verse and it said Vahamyaham. That means that Krishna carries what the devotee is lacking. And he was thinking that Krishna doesn't have to carry anything. So he crossed that out, in his Bhagavadgita. And then his wife came to him and said, we need some, you have to go, he was a Brahmin, so he used to beg his vegetables. You have to go and get some vegetables from the market because we don't have anything. So he went out. And while he was out, there was two little boys came with loads of vegetables and fruits and everything. And they brought them to this Mataji, to the Brahman's wife. When they arrived, she said, where did you get them from? She says, your husband gave him to us. And so I said, oh, he was successful. And then they turned around to walk away. One was blue and one was white. And, the one who was blue, he had scratch marks all over his back, whip marks. And she said, who's done that to you? He said, it was your husband. And then they ran off. And she was thinking, my husband's so peaceful, why would it? And when he came back, she really scolded him. I said, look, I didn't see any two boys. What are you talking about? She said, describe them to me. And so he described them. She described them, and he understood immediately this was actually Krishna and Balaram. And then he remembered he's crossed out, when she said they got scratch marks on the backs, he remembered that he was actually, really insulting Krishna by that remark, by taking that part out of the Bhagavad Gita with his pen, scratching Vahamyaham out. So yeah, Krishna he does actually support his devotee. That's the whole point. And that's the difference between any other process and devotional service. Any other process, we have to make maximum endeavor, and it's really dependent on our endeavor that we put in. Because actually we're following Shastra, even though it's a different process, that's the connection with Krishna. If we don't follow Shastra, there's no connection at all. But, the difference is when we try to serve Krishna directly, then he directly takes an interest in that person. And this is how we finish the 8th chapter. With, that we don't have to worry about our destination. So now this is emphasizing that point in this verse once again. And this is a really important point. Anybody tell me why? From your experience in life. Don't all speak at once. We tend to, well, I do anyway, I can't talk about everybody, but just completely surrender to Krishna is one thing. And in certain circumstances, we tend to take shelter of our way of doing things. Has anybody got that experience? We could actually surrender more, or we could rely on Krishna, but we're so habituated to relying on our own ability. And so, and that limits us, doesn't it? One thing, it limits us because Krishna is the ability. We don't take shelter of Krishna. And also, we tend to be fearful of the outcome. That it's all dependent on us, or in difficult situations that we have to, make all the arrangements. So that remembering this point that, Krishna's sanctioning everything, he sometimes puts us into a situation where we've got no alternative. And then all of a sudden, when we do that, everything falls into place. Is it? It works automatically, even without our endeavoring. And, we should be intelligent that far that it's got nothing to do with me. I just have to try. The results in Krishna's hands. I remember I went on Sankirtan late one day, in the middle of the afternoon. I thought it's too late to actually have any success in distributing books, But anyway, I went to a few shops. I was doing door to door, and then it came to 5 o'clock at one time. Shops used to finish at 5, This was in the 90s, early 90s. And they all started shutting, so I thought, oh, better make my way back to the car and go back to the temple. I'll go and do some Sankirtan in the evening, door to door. And as I got to walking towards the car, I thought, where's my keys? And that day, I'd run out of, I got no curtains. I'm on my last curtain, it's got no pockets in. And I remember when I got out of the car, I sat down on this wall for 5 minutes just to have a rest. And I had to put the keys in my hand, obviously. I had nowhere to put them. And then I set up and started to do the shops. And I'd forgotten about that. And then I was walking along and I thought, oh, God, I've got to go and catch the bus now and get some keys cut and everything out. Then all of a sudden, as if, wait a minute, I had a feeling that they're not lost. And I walked a couple of more paces and then my head turned automatically. And it was just at that place where I was sat down, before I started doing Sankirtan, and it was still on the wall. And I thought, I wouldn't have found them in 1,000 years. So it gave me, confidence that ultimately, there's only one thing that's lacking, that's Krishna consciousness. I'm sure you've all had a similar experience at some time. Okay. What are we on now? 23. So what we had last Chaitanya Chandrodaya. So next to read is Jude. Do you want to read or just listen, Mataji? Well, I think that may. Oh, she's just listening. I can see now. Okay, so we'll move on to Barbara.
Hare Krishna, 9:23. Those who are devotees of other gods and who worship them with faith actually worship only me, O son of Kunti, but they do so in a wrong way. I am the only endurer and master of all sacrifices. Therefore, those who do not recognize my true transcendental nature fall down. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors will go to the ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings, and those who worship me will live with me.
Okay, so has anybody seen a ghost?
I have.
Yeah.
I've seen a few ghosts in the time.
Donald Trump's just come back from the dead, Annie.
The demons come back from hell.
Yeah,
I'll tell you another time about it. All the things I've seen and experienced. I'll tell you another time.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I was walking. It was. I'll tell you what it was. It was the what was it? COVID time. So I was on my own in a temple in Manchester, and I went for a walk. And I used to go for a walk down to, sometimes I walk through the Southern Cemetery, and I don't know whether to tell you this or not. Go on.
Yeah, go on.
No, it's nothing really. But I was walking through the cemetery, and this young man who sat on the, some people sit on the seat, but they sit on the backrest and put their feet on the seat. And they were sat there, and they were. It looks as if he'd been there studying for some time. And as I was walking up to him, he said, "You know, you've got some friends." I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "There's two people walking behind you." And I looked, nobody there. And he described them to me. And, I realized then that, some people can actually see subtle beings. And he was able to do that. And, some of us, we're not so subtle, so we don't, we can feel them sometimes.
Yeah.
But the effects of them, but not see them. So many instances, actually, while I've been in the movement. Before I was in the movement, I never noticed. But then by hindsight, when I had a bit of knowledge and I realized what was happening, I could understand that, they are there. He must have been on the edge of being a ghost worshipper. It looks as if he used to go there regularly just to, get some association. So,
That's fascinating.
okay. Let's have a look. We'll go back to Jai Krishna again.
Which number are we on? 24?
Yeah.
Was it 25 then?
Okay, hang on.
Avidipur, this is mentioned in 25. Avidi means, did we do 20? Or was it 25 or 23?
We did 25 last time.
Oh, I thought we did, yeah. Okay, so we're on 26.
Okay.
So it changes at this. We're changing the subject matter.
Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yome Bhaktya Prayachati Tadaham Bhaktyo Upritam Ashnami Prayatat Manaha. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so just have a minute. I just wanted to explain something before you went on. That now we're on a new section this has changed from demigod worship to the glories of bhakti. So this is a famous verse, isn't it? Well, carry on, you can read the English now.
I just did, but I'll read it again. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it. Maharaj says Prashant as well, who hasn't read.
Prashanta. Is it? Let's see.
Yeah.
With Prashanta. I think you're on my screen. I've got just listening. Is that Prashanta?
He's here, I can see him.
Oh, Prashant is on the top right-hand side. Okay, we'll anyway read a couple more verses and we'll swap up. We'll let Prashant read.
All right, so I'll do the next one, yeah?
Speak up if I'm making any mistakes.
So do 27, yeah?
So yeah, 26 means that I think everybody is must have be accustomed to it. That devotional service is pretty easy. It's compared to other processes, and it's all down to developing a relationship. And so the first part of that relationship is that we cook food for Krishna. We start to, if you want to get, say, a bank loan, one of the best ways you can do it is to invite the bank manager and give him a really good feast and soften him up a bit, you know what I mean? So in the same way, you invite, this is the way we actually develop relationships, by inviting people for lunch. And so this is what we're doing with Krishna when we offer this food. It's not coming because he's hungry, it's coming because we are actually trying to, reciprocate with him. And he reciprocates with that. Our effort at trying to develop devotion. And that's also explained in the, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, or Nectar of Devotion. Atai Sri Krishna Namadi Nabhavetve Indriya Sevan Mukhi Hi Jivado Swayameva Spuratyadas. So Jivado means tongue. And it says that in this verse, the translation, we can't understand Krishna by our direct senses. He says, but when we start to render service, starting with the tongue, and by chanting Krishna's holy name and offering foodstuffs and taking the prasadam, he says, then gradually we can understand Krishna. So, spiritual life, I think I mentioned this in the WhatsApp group, how it starts with the tongue. And so Krishna's not, the amount of effort we put into trying to make the offering nice is a sign of devotion. And this is what attracts Krishna to take the offering. Prabhupada said Ashnami. It said in this verse, Ashnami, I eat. I remember listening to one tape by Prabhupada, and there was some Indian gentleman, they were asking questions. And he said, Swamiji, how am I to understand that Krishna eats? He was like challenging. He says, because in Bhagavadgita it says, Ashnami, I eat. He says, how can Krishna eat? And he gave so many reasons. And he says, so how can Krishna? He says, I don't believe Krishna eats. And Prabhupada says, it says in Bhagavad Gita, Ashnami, I eat. He says, Prabhupada says, who do I believe? A loafer like you or Krishna? And so he completely defeated him. So we have to have faith. That's the point. And then the next verse, we'll change over to Prashant then.
Yes, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Just a minute.
27 or 26?
Wait a minute. Am I not very loud or something?
No, I think you're fine.
I'm okay, because I sometimes I'm talking and it's like as if nobody's actually, or if the speaker doesn't hear,
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so just a minute. I want to explain a bit more about 26. And I forgot where it was. Oh, it's a wow. Anyway, I'll have to come back to it. There was something important. Oh, that's right. Yeah. This is the first. This is pure devotional service. When we offer something, when we cook something and offer it to Krishna, without any expectation of reward. This is actually, a development of a relationship. So not everybody's able to do that straight away. We may be on a lower level than having that mood of bhakti, mood of devotion, and a loving attitude towards service. So it says the next one is a step down from that. It means that, okay, whatever you do. So when there's an act of devotion, we think about who we're going to serve. Like when we're cooking, we're going to serve Krishna, right? So we follow the rules and regulations for cooking, and then so this is offered to Krishna even before it's cooked. That's bhakti, pure bhakti. But in the next one, 27, it talks about somebody who does everything unconsciously for himself. Then he actually decides to offer it to Krishna as an afterthought. I'll do what I want to do, but I'll offer everything to Krishna afterwards. Okay, 27. Carry on, Prashant.
Yes, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Yat karoshi yad asnayasi yad juhoshi dadasi yat tapasvi konteya tat kuruvasya mad arpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me.
Okay, so this pure bhakti is mentioned in 9:14, 9:22. The one where we give the story of the Brahman, where Krishna, even if we're not very expert, he'll carry what we lack in devotional service and preserve what we already have if we have devotion. So that was 22, and then again in 26. So now doing everything and offering afterwards. So the Ananya Bhakti means pure Bhakti. So this is not Ananya Bhakti. Sometimes we can get confused. I mean, who would have thought that that's not Ananya Bhakti? We do everything for Krishna. Yeah, we would immediately think, yeah, that's unalloyed devotional service. But it's a matter of the consciousness that we do things in. The first consciousness in 26 is different from this. And so, we may be performing devotional service, but we may not be performing Ananya Bhakti. We may be performing this one, where we're thinking about, what we want to do, what we want to achieve, and then offering it to Krishna. So it's, devotional service. The easy part, relatively speaking, is using the body in Krishna's service. But the more difficult part is actually bringing the mind to focus in Krishna's service. And, bringing our attention to putting Krishna first. So it's similar to what they call jnana. Jnana means knowledge, devotional knowledge. Mishra Bhakti. So our bhakti is not pure, but we have a tendency to want to, to philosophical debate. And then the other one is Karma Mishra Bhakti, where we have a tendency to, absorb ourselves materially with our devotional service. 15 minutes. 15? What? Yeah. Okay, so that's 28. Carry on, Prashant.
Yes, Prabhu. शुभाशुभे पलाहिर एवं मोक्षयसे कर्म बंधन है सनस्य योग युक्तमः विमुक्तो मम उपयस्यसि. In this way, you would be freed from bondage to work and its spacious results. With your mind fixed on me in this principle of renunciation, you will be liberated and come to me.
Yeah, so that's the formula for success. At least if we do everything for Krishna, the mind will follow eventually. Then it talks about how Krishna reciprocates with somebody who approaches him in 30. So you can read one more, Prashant.
Yes, Roji. Samoham sarva bhuteshu name devasho sthiti na priyah ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktaya mayi te tesu chapi aham. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him.
So this is the neutrality of the Lord. Everybody has an opportunity, an equal opportunity. And but it's a matter of whether we take it up or not, that's all. And when we take up his offer, then obviously, he pays attention to that devotee. It's not that the other one who doesn't surrender, then he comes under the law of karma. It's not that, and that's also Krishna's law to actually purify every living entity. But it says impartiality, is impartial in that everybody has an opportunity, but as soon as we actually take the devotional service, even in the purport to that verse, it says he's partial. So he becomes partial to his devotee. It depends how you actually use the word partial. But, he pays more attention to somebody who's actually paying attention to trying to serve him. That's the point. And so in other words, we can't, we're actually in charge of our destiny. It's not up to Krishna. He's offering, and we have to actually take that offer. And what if we actually make a mistake or we start to engage in sinful acts again? That's the next verse. So we can go back to Jai Krishna. Oh, he's read. We can go to who's next? Anthony.
Text 29. Samoham sarva bhuteshu name dvesha stina priye se bhajan tumam bhakta mayi teteshu chapya aham. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all. But whoever renders service to me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him.
Yeah, so we may think, obviously it says in the purport that we shouldn't actually commit sinful activities or non-devotional activities, thinking that, we'll get forgiven for them. Because in the next verse, he says he quickly becomes righteous and attains the lasting peace. So, and I said one of the acharyas, he gives an example that because Arjuna at this point, he would argue with Krishna, but he's sinful. How can you actually say that? He said, no, Arjuna, he's a devotee. He's trying to render service. He may have fallen down. He says, and the acharyas say, even if he runs off with his guru's missus, he says he's still to be considered, saintly. So he really makes a strong point there. that, you know, we can make mistakes and our lower nature can shine through, which it, you know, it quite often does. But still, you know, we should carry on.
Carry on regardless.
Yeah. And next verse.
Next verse. Api chetsu durachero vajatimam ananyapak sadorevasa mantavya samyag vyayashito isha. Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated in his determination.
Yeah. So that's the point. I've just mentioned that.
Yeah.
Then another 3 verses, I think, to emphasize who can practice bhakti. So 33, we'll go to Chaitanya Chandradaya Prabhu.
What's happening?
We're waiting for Chaitanya Chandradaya if he's there.
Mayapur Chandradaya, Maharaj.
What did I say?
Chaitanya Chandradaya.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, my mic was muted. I didn't notice. Kshipram bhavati dharmatma shashvachantim nigachati kaunteya pratijanihi name bhaktah pranashyati. He quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes.
Next one.
Next one. Mam hi partha vyapashritya ye pisyuh papayonayah striyo vaishyas tata shudras te pyayanti param gatim. And, O son of Pritha, those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, merchants, and Shudras workers, can attain the supreme destination.
Yeah. So everybody is a bit, you know, Shudra generally, low-class person, you know, fallen Brahman son, and you know, women generally seen as being, it's, I don't want to make it a controversial point, Harry, but it's what Shastra says. It says that, you know, it's not a same birth as a man. So, and then the next verse, read the next verse.
Kim punar brahmanah punya bhakta rajarshayastata anityam asukam lokam imam prapya bhajasva mam. Translation: how much more this is so of the righteous brahmanas, the devotees and the saintly kings. Therefore, having come to this temporary miserable world, engage in loving service unto me.
Yeah, so same thing. Last verse.
Next verse.
Yeah.
Manmana bhavamad bhakto madhyajimam namaskuru mam evaishyasi yuktvaivam atmanam matparayanaha. Engage your mind always in thinking of me, become my devotee, offer obeisances to me, and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me.
So this is the most important verse of the Bhagavadgita. And it's repeated in the 18th chapter, 1865. In not quite the same, but 90%. Saying that that's why we have to worship Krishna, offer our obeisances, you know, and work for Krishna. Always think about him. And if we can work at doing that, we'll be successful in devotional service. So thank you very much. I have to go now. And next week we can start chapter 10, which is also the middle of the Bhagavad Gita. This verse, this 9, chapter 9 and 10 are considered the essence of Bhagavad Gita. I'm sorry I haven't got time for any questions, if there is any, but I have to go. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you.
See you next week, hopefully.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much
Krishna.
indeed.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I'm just trying to find out where Donaki the I we are.